Hi, welcome to Shop Talk Live, episode 331. My name is Amanda Russell, and I'm joined by Ben Strano and Vic Teslin on this episode. This is the last episode of 2024, which is a little sad for me, but also just insane how fast this year has gone. It feels like just a few weeks ago, I was recording my first episode with Ben and Vic as a co-host, and here we are at the end of the year. So grateful for all of you and all of our listeners who submit questions. This episode, we answer a few of those, and we get to catch up with Vic and talk about our end-of-year plans. I won't dive too deep into it, and I'll let you just listen. But in the meantime, here's a word from one of our sponsors.
Yestermorrow's Woodworking Certificate program is a fantastic way to immerse yourself in the craft of furniture making while surrounded by the beautiful landscape of central Vermont. Whether you're a novice looking to start your journey or an intermediate woodworker seeking to refine your skills, the 12-week program is a comprehensive learning experience that will help you meet your goals. If you're interested in learning more, you can visit yestermorrow.org for details and to apply. It's a perfect chance to deepen your craft and gain the experience needed to launch your own woodworking business or career. All right, so we haven't talked about this, but this is the last podcast of the year.
Get out.
Oh, that's right.
Because we take Christmas off.
That's right.
We take that week off.
Nice.
But yeah, so a part of me was wondering, like, do we start next year with shop resolutions? Or do we end this year with shop resolutions?
Oh, that's a good point.
I don't do resolutions.
I know. That's what everyone says.
I would have worn something a little bit more festive if I would have known this was the last one.
Yeah, that's totally why I put on red.
Well, I've got some red.
Yeah, there you go.
I could be like a reindeer if I use this windscreen.
Vic is holding a microphone dead cat up to his nose right now. It is.
And there's a thumbnail.
With your nose so bright.
I don't know if festive is the word that comes to mind, Vic, but
deranged.
Yeah, I don't know. I think so. Like, I actually wrote on my whiteboard the other day, like, things that I want to do in like the break, because we get that week off, and I am going to beef up my garbage workbench. I have decided, dude, I'm not going to build a new workbench. I just don't care. It's a workbench. I don't care. I don't want to build a new one. I don't think like it's worth doing a video, so therefore I don't think it's worth having the company pay for it to do a new one. I am just going to beef it up. I'm going to get some MDF and I'm going to panelize the base so that there's like no way for it to rack. And I think I'm just going to skin the top with a sheet of 3/4 inch MDF and get back to work. I don't care about my workbench. I know this is something that is frowned upon by many woodworkers, but no, I just don't care. I'd rather work, and I want it to stop wobbling all over the place when I hand plane. So that's what I'm going to do.
I think your bench is a nice bench. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. And
no, there's,
well, I mean, obviously functionally you're having some issues with it moving or whatever. But again, like, just like a cabinet, you put a backer on it, it'll stiffen right up and you'll be good.
Yep. The main problem is there is like probably 18, 20 dog holes, like 1.125 dog holes or something like that. I don't know why they're there or what the reasoning is for them. And there are just too many dog holes and things fall through all the time. So I need to skin the top. I might as well make it heavier and just do 3/4 inch MDF for the top that I could replace if I want. And I need it to quit wobbling around. And I think I'm going to do some concrete anchors into the floor just to keep it from moving on me.
You think it'll move with all that MDF on it?
I think at the end of the day, I don't want to think about it moving at all. So I might as well.
The moment you stick it to the ground, you're going to want to move it. Guaranteed.
Nah, I'm
guaranteed.
Nah, Vic.
Guaranteed.
Vic. You going to be that guy?
I'm just saying.
All right, Amanda, you get the deciding vote. Do I anchor it?
I'd anchor it. I like committing.
Booyah!
I'm averted to committing. I have an aversion.
Says the man who's moved 13 times.
Yeah, I don't care where I am. I don't care if my workbench moves. I don't care. Not the face of concern.
Oh, the face of concern title with the thing held up to the nose.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
We got it.
All right.
Usually I have to think about that before it never happens before the episode's even started.
Yeah, we're pretty much done. Okay, we can call it. That's end of episode. Run the ad.
Good seeing you guys.
Yeah.
Amanda, do you have anything that you're going to do to your shop during the break?
I do. It's just shop organization. I'm going to buy a locker for all my tools that are sitting all over the floor. And then I'm going to do some sort of like sliding system for sustainers, because I restacked sustainers like so much in the last project I had. It was driving me insane.
Did you see Laura Kampf? I don't know if they're available here yet, but Thanos is making, they're like just this one piece plastic, like molded thing that like sustainers slide right into and hook onto.
Yeah, that's for the SIS3. Those are for the newer sustainers.
Oh, they only work for the new ones.
Yeah, and they're also available as a printable file.
Amanda,
because I've printed 6 sets of them.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
On the bamboo. They're small enough to print diagonally.
Diagonally, one at a time. Yeah. So it's a little bit of a long process, but they're not very big, and they're anyway. DM me for the file.
Well, my plans just changed a little bit. But
Right.
shortcut. All right. I like that. Be contacting one of you about that.
Yeah, and they won't work on the older ones. So depending on which ones you have, I mean, the other easy way to do it is to just to make a tray. And
yeah, I was originally going to go like, there's an Shaper Origin file that just is a light, like recess that it sits in, and then just do like full extension drawer slides just to cut costs. But this also sounds like a great idea.
So you can do all kinds of fun stuff.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, that would be... I got rid of sustainers, though, because I found myself being annoyed unstacking and restacking all of the time. And you have a lot of sustainers, so that'll be exciting to get that out of your workflow.
Yeah, just organizing. I'm not even... Yeah, I don't have... I mean, that's enough for a week, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, yeah. That's my plan.
That's cool.
And Vic doesn't have one because Vic's perfect.
No. Vic has lots of ideas for the shop. I have to I have to do some organization as well. I moved some things around and am debating on. Right now, my shaper lives on a movable IKEA kitchen island thingy that I repurposed. And that works awesome because in the backside of it, lives the sustainer. And so everything's all kind of like in one spot. But then it takes up room. And so I thought about getting it up and out of the way somewhere, like the workstation and stuff like that. But then it's like, I've been using it all the time. So it's like, I feel like it's better to just leave it out and not have to worry about it. And it's one of those things where it's like it's got a screen on it, so like I feel like I should be somehow more protective about it. But then like the thing's designed obviously to be in a dusty workshop, so like maybe I'm just worrying about nothing. I was gonna like
you should get a toque for it.
I was thinking about that. My daughter knits and crochets, and I thought she could do like a little shaper cozy for me.
Oh my gosh.
Wouldn't that be awesome? With like a little SpongeBob SquarePants sort of.
Please let that happen.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll talk to my daughter.
That's content there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, I'll talk to her. She's really fun. She really enjoys like playing with like new patterns and making patterns and doing stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll make a little cozy.
this is my favorite podcast because it's just never even started on the rails.
There were no rails.
No.
It's like we were dropped off by a helicopter, and then now we're just trying to find our way back.
Yes.
Oh, perfection. Okay.
And we're running out of food.
And I already had a freak out that my recorder wasn't recording at one point.
Oh,
It's recording. I'm fine.
Okay, I just checked too.
me too.
Sorry, Amanda.
Yeah, panic.
Everybody stop. All right. Should we answer some questions?
Yes.
All right. This one is from Joe. This one just came in, and I think I slacked Amanda immediately. I was like, "Oh, we need to answer this."
Yes.
I've been watching Yuri Truckman videos. I think that's how you say it. I don't know. On YouTube. Yuri makes some cool machines out of brass. And it's got me thinking, many of the machines I have could work brass. Working in metal has some potential appeal as it seems like a less variable material than wood. Have any of you dabbled in metal? And if so, is brass the gateway material? Thanks all. I think Amanda's like covered in metal shavings probably right now.
Specifically brass. Yeah. Yeah, I think brass is a great gateway material. Like during my apprenticeship, we used it a lot.
Would you use it for fills?
So we did like these little speaker stands that housed speakers and had little brass feet and these octagonal, like curved legs. So yeah, we were machining brass on that, and then custom tabletop fasteners. We did, yeah, it wasn't extensive, but we dabbled in it. And then of course, when I got my Origin, I started milling brass and obviously doing like brass tooling now. So I use it heavily.
You can see the handle of a hammer right up there. That perfectly, I almost sent you a picture the other day. It's now the hammer that I use for hammering in inlays at the CNC. And it perfectly fits like around a cord that's like powering my monitor for something. And it's just like, it almost looks like yeah, sorry. But yeah, so you've made a bunch of brass hammer heads and dovetail.
Doing dovetail markers now. Yeah. Saddle markers. So I use the Origin for cutting, doing the milling. And then, I've used, you can cut brass on the bandsaw. I use like I have a blade set aside for that. And, I cut it down with a chop saw, and I use a blade specified for like non-ferrous metals. I guess that's what it's called. But yeah. So yeah, I've used the chop saw on different machines. I know you can use a table saw and router, and you just have to make really like very light, slow passes. I'm a little intimidated by the idea of that. So I get the brass dimensioned basically to what I need already. So it's minimal like milling. But
where do you get it from?
I get it from Online Metals, I believe is the website.
I thought you were gonna say.
Yeah. So, and their stuff's been really good. Like the saddle markers I get angle stock, and it's pretty square. Like it's really reliable. So, yeah, I was like looking around on the website too, and we'll put it in show notes, but Bob Sanderson years ago made a really good article on like what kind of tools you can add to your existing woodworking machines to mill brass. So That's a really good one. Yeah, I use the Origin because I'm able to control the speed of the router and the feed. Oh, sorry, Vic.
Vic has his hand up.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, as already discussed, I have a shaper as well.
Yes.
What bits do you use, and what like feed rates, and like how big of bites do you take?
So there's like a chart on Origin, on the Shaper Origin website, Shaper Tools website, that has like recommended feeds and speeds and bit types for whatever material you're using.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
And I can link that in show notes too. But I use the O-Flute bits that they provide. I found they're the best. Like I've got like different brands, and they're not the same quality. Those hold up forever. And yeah, it's an O-Flute, up spiral O-Flute bit. So it's clearing the chips.
What's an O-Flute? What does that mean?
It's the geometry of the end of the bit. So it's like almost sharp at the end instead of a square.
Okay.
And like the spiral comes to a tip, and it helps in clearing chips a lot faster because metal gets really hot, like really quickly. And
it packs in. Yeah.
Yeah. To the point too, like work holding is really important too. Like for most operations on the workstation, I use double-sided tape, but that it heats up and then it releases. So I have to like work holding is really important when you work with brass. You really have to like be sure that's not moving at all.
So are you making like a negative pocket of the milled piece or something?
Exactly.
And then holding it in there? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have like a rectangular, like perfectly sized channel that I drop the hammerhead into. And then it has little like dog holes, I guess they're called, so you can be able to pop them back out. And I still secure that with double-sided tape, but I cut the brass to size to like really just wedge in there. Like it's hard to take out. And so I have designated jigs for holding any brass I cut. Yeah.
Okay.
That's super cool. Something I'm starting to recognize is that like if you can hold whatever it is, the piece of wood, a piece of plastic, a piece of whatever at that spot, and then just let it do its thing, it works really. Like it's almost, well, it's cheating. It's like it's quite easy, and it's like, man, like I was doing 5-degree rate dovetails on, or not dovetails, mortise and tenon, and I actually used I just used the domino setting on the shaper and like put in a couple of number 8 dominoes, and it was just like, it was easier than using the domino.
Yeah. Yeah. Work holding is one of the most crucial parts of getting things accurately. And I know like, people have done like routing, like mortises and stuff on brass with traditional machines, like a slot mortiser or something. And I think of it that way too. Like the tool is like housed, like a slot mortiser is limited the amount of travel it can do. So it's really just you controlling the light, like very light passes. So the most control you can have over the process before you touch that tool to metal is really critical.
And do you have your dust collection set up when you're cutting metals, or do you just let it?
I use dust collection. And I probably should use like a separate vacuum. I just got a separate shop vac for brass just to keep it clear of everything, because that does like mess up. Like I have the Festool vacuum, and it's like those bags are so expensive, and I use a reusable bag, but it like tears it up, so you can't like reuse it. But yeah, keeping it separate I think is really important too. And things get really messy. Like it's a big amount of cleanup for every process. Like at the chop saw, we have a separate we have like the Capex for wood, and then I use like a separate chop saw for metal. That's just set up, and then but clean up after that is a lot of work.
Yeah.
It'd almost be worth getting one of those cutoff saws. You know, the ones that have it's almost like a grinder wheel kind of thing.
Abrasive disc one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you
And-
end up
and
doing
two,
a
For
lot of
brass, those gum up, I think, though.
like if you end up
and
doing a
two,
lot
For
of
brass, those gum up, I think, though.
oh, do they? Okay.
Because so I'm almost positive that like filing brass, even brass likes to just stick to the file or a grinder or whatever. But I was gonna say, like, we can go to the other end of things and go like, all of those old clocks were made with hand files. There's
Yeah.
you get some mill files at the hardware store, and you could do a lot of really good work. But coming back to what Amanda said, I've done a lot of things with aluminum, and again, work holding is like, you can do serious work with aluminum with woodworking tools. For work holding, though, one thing that I always did was I would drill, I would design in holes or whatever to the part, drill holes at the drill press like I would with anything else, and then screw the pieces down to a sled or something to cut it at the table saw or whatever. So it's like the key for me is like absolutely making sure that piece is not going to go flying. So I have done a decent amount of aluminum work at the table saw. I refuse to do it at a saw stop, like at the workshop or at the fine woodworking shop, because I'm just like, I'm going to forget to hit the button and trigger it. And then I got that to deal with. So, hacksaw, files, a disc sander and aluminum, or a disc sander and brass, you can do crazy stuff with it. That is a super powerful combination. But one thing that I absolutely don't want to ignore, and I'm going to get Send Cut Send is a company.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
yes, that's a really good point.
Send Cut Send. If you want to add a brass element or a aluminum element, or I have titanium over there, right? Which is ugly. You're not going to use this. Let's be honest. This is for aesthetic purposes, right? But Send Cut Send. If you can do up a SVG file in Inkscape or whatever, I do mine in Fusion, obviously. Whatever. You export a SVG file or a DXF file. You upload it to the website. You pick the material, you pick the thickness. So this is for 2D materials mostly. They do bend and everything as well, but pick the material, pick the thickness. It gives you a price and it tells you what day it's going to be at your house. And it's like a week from now. And it is like wildly precisely cut. They cut most of it with lasers. This is for robot stuff, and it's painted on one side, but this, it's a piece of AR 500 steel that is, like armory, like they make targets out of this stuff because it's that hard. And they just cut it out with a laser and they just send it to you, and they put a little piece of candy in the package. It's and it's not that expensive. Like the minimum order price is $29. And there are times that I find myself like having to pad out my order with extra parts because it's that cheap. So if you're looking to add like a brass element and you've got a complex thing, go to Send Cut Send, get the brass element cut up, and then you're just going to kiss it with a file and some sandpaper to really, bring it home. And while you're at it, have them laser cut a plywood template for routing and you'll be good to go. So without any of these fancy tools, there are things out there that are going to make metal elements much more attainable if you so desire. And Yuri's a perfect example of like, if you've watched any of his stuff, it's wild channel, but like he makes bonkers things and he's like sitting there with a file half the time.
Yeah.
So
The first time I worked with metal was when I was at Rosewood as a student, and it was actually Adrian Ferrazzuti was there doing a lecture on making his boxes. And so we were doing the escutcheon for the key. And so a lot of his boxes, it looks like there is like a triangle with a little circle on the top of it, and it is in the same shaped hole, and it almost looks like it's just lining the hole. Doesn't sit on top of the box, it sits in the box. And so I thought, oh, he must get those made or whatever. And oh no. It was a piece of like 1/2 inch wide by 1/4 inch thick brass. You would cut it off with a hacksaw, drill some holes, and then you would have like a little vise and files, and you'd be filing that to fit. You know what I mean? Like you would get the outside sorted, scribe it, let it into the wood, into these beautiful veneers that you just spent, the better part of a week playing with. And then slide that guy in there. And I thought, wow, that's super cool. So I've done other metals. I've done sterling silver. I've worked with aluminum. Silver was with Michael Fortune, and he basically gets like, he goes to a jewelry supply place, and he actually said what he would do is he would like route the groove for it, and then he would give that sample to the jeweler, and the jeweler would then pull silver wire through it's like a pasta machine basically for metal,
and squeeze it to thickness
until it just fit, like friction fit into that groove. And then he would say, yeah, make me, whatever, 10 feet of it. And then as long as he uses that bit, that stuff's going to fit. And it's like, that's super cool.
I'm doing pewter right now.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
And, so the silver made me think of it because pewter's like a much softer, little bit darker version, almost looks like nickel.
Yep.
But you can, and we did a video with Kevin Rodell doing a like an arts and crafts bed that he did pewter inlays on, and he's surfacing it with a card scraper.
Yeah, super
and like
soft.
it's like coming off like anything else. And I mean, it looks like a silver. It's no one's ever going to think it's a lesser metal. I just got 2 things I think they're like maybe 3x6 sheets of pewter, 1/16 of an inch thick off of eBay. I think it was maybe $30. So it was expensive enough that I was like, thinking about it, not trying to waste the material. But yeah, it's the only problem that I've been having with it is, so I route the inlay and then bringing everything down to size, like basically planing that off on the CNC has been, I've got to dial it in. The last fretboard I did is like 0.6 millimeters thinner than I wanted it to be, just because I had to 0.3 millimeters at a time bring it down to get rid of the gouges. So I got to mess with feeds and speeds. If I was not doing a radius thing that had to be perfectly precise, I had to just gone at it with a card scraper and some sandpaper and been done. So on a inlay on like a table or something, wouldn't think twice about taking a card scraper to pewter. So there's another metal that works great.
Isn't pewter, like, doesn't it melt like at the same temperature as butter? Like it's really, really soft. And so like I've seen people like liquefy it and then like pour it into.
I've seen that with solder. So we have a video on the website about doing a solder inlay. And I think the hard part about doing that is getting it to, Amanda, you're on it. I can tell you're taking notes. And I was thinking, I need to write this down. I think what people do with that is they use copper foil. So Lutherie supplies, especially for grounding issues, you can get copper foil, adhesive backed, and so you route out a recess, cut a piece of copper foil to fit in the bottom, stick it in there with the PSA backing, and then you just melt solder. That is a way of doing it. We should check with our friends over at Popular Woodworking, because I know that Don Williams was doing inlaid solder, and I feel like his system was maybe hammered in or something. Well,
Cool.
We'll try and find a link for that too. We'll ask Colin.
So yeah, so in answer to Joe's question, brass is definitely an amazing entryway metal, but as we've said, like there's a lot more. There's aluminum, there's solder, there's pewter, there's all kinds of sort of non-ferrous, copper. Copper's but that's expensive. You want to talk about an expensive metal right now. And that's why Canada doesn't make pennies anymore because it costs too much money to make a penny.
Well,
and they're not.
Yeah, we're losing money making pennies. So
yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. So every time I go to the US, I get all the pennies I can. And yeah.
And then mock us.
Yeah. Oh, look at your penny.
I just love, like, I feel like sometimes woodworkers get really stuck in not thinking of the piece as a whole, or just thinking of it as like wood. I'm a woodworker. I work in wood. And it, like, some metal elements every now and then.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It'll go a long way. So it's like, I love people opening up their horizons a little bit, design wise or technique wise, and just saying like, I've got these tools that, an abrasive is going to, it takes longer to sand metal, right? But it'll do it. So
yeah, you have to be careful, of course, like, because you don't want to get the metal filings into the wood and all that other stuff. But yeah.
I'm trying to think of, what's his name? This is going to kill me.
Hanna-Barbera.
Peter Harrison does really cool furniture that, like, his metal work is the basis of a lot of joinery. And but like, when I look at his pieces, it's like, you're not going to argue he's not a metal worker, and you're not going to argue he's not a woodworker, but like, I think he would just be like, I'm a furniture maker. And whatever medium is the medium that allows me to make the thing in my head, that's what he's going to do, Mm-hmm. So I find he's a great follow on Instagram. I find his work very inspiring, and he's got a shop that'll make it droll. So, yeah. Sutherland Wells believes that your exceptional craftsmanship deserves an exceptional finish. They handcraft their full line of low and VOC exempt finishes and stains with the highest quality, cold pressed, sustainably grown tung oil. Their polymerization process gives you the grain enhancing, wood nurturing, deep penetration, and non-yellowing protection of raw tung oil, but decreases drying time and allows the oil to both penetrate and build a film finish. Sutherland Wells traditional oil aesthetic for the contemporary woodworker. Use code FWW24 for 10% off your first order.
Yestermorrow's Woodworking Certificate Program is a fantastic way to immerse yourself in the craft of furniture making while surrounded by the beautiful landscape of central Vermont. Whether you're a novice looking to start your journey or an intermediate woodworker seeking to refine your skills, the 12-week program is a comprehensive learning experience that will help you meet your goals. If you're interested in learning more, you can visit yestermorrow.org for details and to apply. It's a perfect chance to deepen your craftsmanship and gain the expertise needed to launch your own woodworking business or career. So this one's from Scott. He says, I'm a full-time woodworker with a focus on traditional joinery and solid wood construction. I have a large drill press, a small benchtop hollow chisel mortiser, a domino, the smaller one, and a hammer combo joiner planer that can also have a slot mortiser added onto. I noticed in a lot of your video workshops, they use the slot mortiser. Can you explain the pros and cons to a slot mortiser versus a tilt table hollow chisel mortiser? Or should I just buy a big domino?
Amanda, I think this is you again, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, I think slot mortiser would be the move. Since you already have the hollow chisel mortiser, I like having that option. I don't really use it, but I use my pan router, and I've used slot mortisers forever, so that's what I'm comfortable with. And I think they're just like super time efficient. I know they're a little more expensive than a hollow chisel. The only reason I would go with a big domino is if you're working on large pieces and you don't need the versatility. Like the advantage to me of a big domino is the portability of it if you're working on large pieces, and if you're really like your joinery is limited to certain sizes. There's like limitations to that, but there's advantages to each. But yeah, Ben, you knew I was going to probably say slot mortiser.
Well, so like to me, the only reason I guess if you're deciding between a slot mortiser and a hollow chisel mortiser is if you're doing like arts and crafts through joinery and you want it to be square and that's a thing, but like in all cases, a slot mortiser's like, he's a pro, right? Full-time woodworker. Like that's time is money. A slot mortiser's just going to be faster, right?
And that's, yeah. Also, you can add it to an existing machine, which means a smaller footprint.
Yeah, okay.
There's that element too. That would be my take on that.
I couldn't agree more. I when I was at Rosewood, we had two of those
slot
things.
Mortisers.
Slot mortisers, thanks.
Horizontal mortiser, right.
And they, like, those things were amazing. You mark out your joinery, you put the piece down, you set your left and right, you set your up and down, and then just go for it. And then you could do all the pieces over and over and over again, no problem. I've never liked the surface hollow chisel mortisers leave behind. And for the most part, like I think, as Ben said, if you're going for that exposed square joinery, then that's probably the most efficient way to do it. But I've just, the biggest one I ever used was like, it had like a foot pedal, and it was like a Canadian General, big honking machine and everything. And even then, things would smoke, things would like, not cut the best. And it's just like, okay, it's never been a thing. So I agree 100%. Like, and because of that joiner planer you already have, get the attachment, stick it on there, and don't look back. The big domino, unless you've ever used one, like they're heavy and they're like, I just don't feel like you get the same precision out of it because it's so heavy. You know what I mean? Maybe you need to get the exoskeleton, and then you can like, but like, yeah, I would get the hollow chisel mortiser or the slot mortiser and just be done with it. It's amazing.
So
go ahead, Ben.
I was just thinking of like the people that I've worked with in their shops, the people who have hollow chisel mortisers, and then the people who have slot mortisers. I feel like North Bennett Street grads are like hollow chisel mortiser, and they all have the foot pedal, big Powermatic or General or whatever. And like I would be curious, like Dan Fea, beautiful work, hollow chisel mortiser all day long. I know Matt Wade's big on them. It's a more traditional way. But then I think of Tim Coleman and Tim Rousseau, and they're just like, no, I'm just yoink. Or even, does a traditional form, but Christian Becksford, he's hollow, or he's a slot mortiser. I think they're just the people who are just, they need to crank out some work. Not that any of those other people are not cranking out work, but I think when time is money, the slot mortiser is king.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Vic said, if you're going for the arts and crafts aesthetic, or you wanted those square exposed tenons, then that's a different story. But practically speaking, sorry, my cat is jumping all over the place. Practically speaking, yeah, slot mortiser all the way. Yeah.
And I don't think that the like I've done pieces where I've done exposed joinery with rounded through tenons. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. I mean, it's not arts and crafts.
Yeah.
But it's what I want. And so I found that because then you just put a backer board behind it and slice right through, and you get this super clean. And there's some kind of magic to a horizontal or a slot mortiser bit. Like if you get like a proper bit that's designed for the machine, it's got some crazy joinery or crazy geometry that, like, I don't know what kind of magic it is, but because I've used end mills as well. We had one at Rosewood that was like this old cobbled together thing that the quill didn't actually move on it. You literally set the table up and down, and then you would hand feed your piece in. Okay,
yeah, it's very Kronovian. Yeah, right, they're big on that.
Yeah, they like that because, there's not enough danger in the shop. So let's add some more. But yeah, like it's such a versatile tool, and you can use it in so many different ways. And and I find they're faster to set up too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just the aspect of the visibility helps. You can see the bit, you can see the piece. It's not like you can't with a hollow chisel. That I'm wrong there, but
you're setting up a center line, and that's your reference point versus like your beginning and end, right?
Okay. Yep.
And then you don't have to worry about like stops. Like you literally, like you need one stop to put the piece in, but the machine already has its stops for the length of your mortise. So you just literally, you don't have to, you mark one joint to get it where it needs to be. And then the rest you just blaze through.
Yeah.
We're going to get a lot of hate about because I feel like we were dogging on hollow chisel mortisers, but I just
leave it as a YouTube comment. And we appreciate the engagement.
Yeah, we'll read it all.
Yeah. All right. So this next question is from Nathan. I'm about to finish up my largest commissioned work, netting me a nice little profit. Well done,
amazing.
Nathan.
You'll have to tell us how he did that.
This isn't my full-time job, so any sort of money I make from woodworking, I want to put back into the shop and continue to grow as a woodworker. I have a DeWalt 735 planer, and I recently, like on the last podcast, I said like my least favorite type of question is like, what kind of tool should I buy? So, but he's got a DeWalt 735 planer, a Grizzly 8-inch joiner, both with straight cutter knives. He wants to upgrade one to a helical head. Which one? I think that's the heart of the question. It doesn't matter what tools he has.
Right.
If you're helical head on your joiner or helical head on your planer, which one is it going to be? Vic?
Planer all day. I think it's the planer because it's a much wider surface. If you're working with an 8-inch joiner and you're using straight knives, versus like 12-inch or 13 in the case of the 735, right? You would benefit more. The only caveat there, though, is that you got to be really careful when you change the head on the 735. Because you run into an issue where with the straight blades, it's cutting intermittently. Mm-hmm. Whereas with the helical, there's always blades engaged. And so you can burn out a motor pretty quickly.
Or trip breakers.
Yeah, exactly. And so you have to be very careful when you're doing that. So like my answer to this question would be, unless you have a capacity issue, right? That's the only reason I would opt to do the jointer first. If you want to be able to joint 12-inch wide material, then I would look at upgrading it that way. But I certainly wouldn't upgrade the jointer with a helical head. And then with the planer, I would sell the 735 and get a 12 or 13 inch or even a 15 inch helical head machine that is designed to run the helical head, and then away you go. That's just me.
So, only because I've experienced it and it's killing me right now because it's on sale. It's only $100 off, but Bob Van Dyke's got one of the Oliver lunchbox planers. It's 12 inch. Yep. I think it's an Oliver. And the veneer he's taking off of it is crazy. It's made me think, okay, maybe I sell my drum sander and my DeWalt 734 and get the Oliver, because I don't know if I would use the drum sander anymore. If I had it, like this planer is killing it. It's the finish is that good off. I don't know. I just know, and maybe they're all that way. I just know how thin he's been able to get. I mean, I can trick my planer into doing 2 millimeters, and I kind of wince as it's going in. This was 1.5 millimeters all day long without second guessing it. Maybe tear up the end a little bit, but I mean, he was getting beautiful shops on veneer right out of that thing. And it was next level. So maybe all helical head lunchbox planers are that way. I just know this is the known entity to me. That's what I've been lusting over. And it's like Woodcraft keeps it at 800 right now. And every time I go to the website, I'm like, oh, I can't. But
how much is the 735 replacement head?
I was looking for that right now.
Because that would be a big difference too. Yeah, because there's Shellex's, I think, is the name that sort of sticks in my head as a helical head. But
so I know that Phil, when I was in Phil's shop, we had one of the first Oliver helical, and it did do a really good job. We had some, I think they were just working out. There was one of their first machines they sent out, and it is pretty impressive. And it has a bird helical head.
Bird.
That's I don't know that this is specific. So it looks like.
So a new Grizzly makes a head for it. That's $475, and the bird is $565. And you can here's where it gets weird though, is you can get a new 13-inch DeWalt 735 with a spiral cutter head for $1,300. With the stand.
With the stand?
Yeah. DeWalt likes those stands too.
They sure do.
They're proud of them. So. All right. So Amanda, do you agree with Vic?
Joiner or thickness planer first?
Yeah.
I do the joiner first.
What?
Okay.
And I kind of address this as, well, I'm familiar with the 735, the DeWalt, and because the knives are relatively inexpensive, and for me, those knives brand new do a really good job. I would rather have the flexibility on my joiner to feed a board in whatever direction I needed to because of the helical head, and then take the final passes on the planer.
Interesting.
So I was thinking of the way
good.
Ben addressed it, more
That's
of the heart
good.
of the question. But
that's a pretty good answer. Oh, I really like it when there's two really good answers and they're both right.
Yeah, and I want to change my answer now. Well, no, because I think that that's a really valid point. I didn't think about the tear out issue, and you're right. You get less tear out with a segmented head than you would with a straight knife. And you're right. The knives that go into the 735, they're super cheap. They're double sided, so you get 2 uses out of each one.
You can slide them back and forth if you get a nick in the blade.
Right.
There's like a lot of you can get quite a bit of use out of those, and they're not a big expense.
Okay, I changed my mind. Joiner. Ben?
All right, Amanda's right.
It's an opinion. It's my opinion.
All right, I'm gonna show more of the Sawdust Woman T-shirt with pride now.
Oh my goodness! How come I don't have one of those yet?
Why aren't you wearing Christmas colors, Vic?
Yeah, I know. I just completely screwed the pooch with this.
That's pod at its best. Okay, one more question.
One more from Brian. I've been thinking about trying some veneering. I thought I would start with some small boxes. I've always understood that veneered outside edges need the edges protected, at least for thin commercial veneer. Maybe not thick shops on veneer. I'm sure we all have an experience with inexpensive veneered furniture that has the veneer chipping away from the edges. There would be various ways of doing this by inserting solid wood edging into a rabbet on the edges, or by having a veneer on a panel which is inserted into some kind of solid wood frame. But I see that in Veneered Boxes Made Easy from issue 283, Craig Thibodeau does not have any solid wood protection on the box edges. He does for the faces between the hinge and the lid, which would otherwise be exposed to substrate edge. So I guess the heart of this question is like, is it okay to use commercial veneers on a box without the edges protected?
So first of all, I think it's important to note, and nobody knows this except for the 3 of us, but Amanda was editing that question as she was reading it, which I've never seen Ben Strano do well. So I just
she's smarter than me. I mean, this we're not like having this conversation.
True. That's true. Yeah. So anyway, first of all, that was fantastic.
The fact that I struggle with things is not the the surprise.
I don't know that my strong suits are the most useful things in the world, but
oh no, that was great. That was great. If you can edit on the fly like that, I think that's fantastic. I think what it boils down to here, as far as veneering, is that Craig Thibodeau really doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so don't do. No, I'm just kidding. So I think the reason why Craig gets away with it is that whenever you veneer a panel, for some reason, the outside edges are always the weakest point. And I don't know if that's because we don't put enough glue out there or whatever it is that happens. But once you if you make your panels slightly oversized, which most people will do, right? And then when you cut your miter on there, you got to feel that edge, right? And you can tell, you can hear it flapping, right? If it's not connected well. And one of the ways I think,
sound. I hate that sound.
The worst. Or when you tap and you're you hear a pocket, tick, 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 and it's
and you tell yourself, I didn't just hear that, and you heard it.
But then you take watered down glue in a syringe and you stick it into the bubble and you bloop, and then press down on it and all is good again. But I think what Craig does fairly, and I tried it because of Craig, what he does a lot is he uses polyurethane glues.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a huge difference because PVA always has a little bit of it doesn't dry as hard as polyurethane. And I think because he's using polyurethane, he can get away with almost anything. Now, is it strong? If you drop the box on its corner, then yeah, you're going to expose the substrate. Don't drop it on its corner. you're making a nice thing or you've purchased a nice thing. Be nice to it. Don't throw it around.
Right. Yeah, that was my thought too, is a box isn't getting the wear and tear that a piece of furniture is. I wouldn't let it discourage me I wouldn't overthink it. If I were getting into veneering, a box is a perfect way to experiment with that. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to be bumped into a corner like a piece of furniture will.
Like the vacuum hitting it.
Yeah, right.
I think a lot of times you'll see that rabbited out, and I think that's more of an aesthetic of, like, I think humidors, that's kind of what you expect to see with a humidor. I think it's a great aesthetic choice. And, as a luthier who does binding, because the edges of instruments get beat up, yeah, I understand the functionality of it. But again, a nice veneered box is not going to see the use that an instrument's going to. And I think you're right, Vic. Polyurethane glue, it's a mess, but like Tim Coleman has glue pants for a reason, like he stops. He's like, I gotta go inside and change, get into my Gorilla Glue pants, and yeah, it's a real thing. Cutting oversize. Yep. And I just think that, the other thing that I want to say is I think that, one of the real reasons why Craig used solid wood on the inside of that box is because he cuts it apart at the table saw. So the box is assembled as one piece and then the lid is cut off. Mm-hmm. So that gives him the ability to cut it off and then, sand it down, plane it down, whatever. And Craig is a commercial veneer. He's not snobs like the rest of y'all about commercial veneer with my shop saw and veneer. I like commercial veneer too. Shop saw veneer is a lot of bloody work.
It really is.
But it's thinner, and if you're going to sand, you don't necessarily want to do it there, right? So I think that's maybe the main reason why he does that. We should ask Craig. But yeah, just go for it. Just start veneering stuff.
Yeah, mm-hmm. You'll find out if it works or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think commercial veneer is the best way to start with that. And you can, certainly wood offers several thicknesses. If you're really concerned about the longevity of it, you can order commercial veneer in like a 16th of an inch.
Yep.
So that's also an option.
Well, and oftentimes, certainly wood will, if you buy nice veneer, they'll line it with a piece of poplar veneer to sort of protect it as they're rolling it. You just found your practice material.
Ah.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Or order a piece of flat sawn poplar. It'll cost you like $5, and then make your first or second boxes out of that and try them out and use them in the shop, and find out how they hold up.
Do you have to call certainly wood to get thicker veneers? I feel like the website only shows 40th of an inch.
No, they show the different sizes.
Okay.
Yeah, like I think you have to, like, when you first start navigating it, you have to pick like thicker veneer. Okay. And then it'll tell you what's available in those thicker veneers. And then, yeah.
I've gone there, but I'm not very good with the web. And, and I refuse to call people because I'm a millennial. And,
right. Because you don't know how to do that. So
I go to B&B where I would, because they have it like obviously listed right there. So yeah, there's other places as well. So maybe I need to scroll around a little bit more.
That wraps another episode of Shop Talk Live. As I said, this is the last one of 2024, so I want to thank our listeners for being there, for sending in questions, for giving us feedback. One great way to do that is to join our Discord channel. I will put the links to that in our shop notes. There's several channels on there talking about anything from finishing to shop setup to woodworking with robots. It's pretty awesome. We have a great community there, and we'd love if you joined. If you enjoyed this episode, you can also like and subscribe on our YouTube channel or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you'd like to send in questions just in general, shoptalk@finewoodworking.com is a great way to do that as well. Again, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed. See you in 2025.